Hey guys, Derek and
Polly here.
from A Guy, a Girl, and a Camper Van. So today we want to discuss a topic that comes up fairly regularly whenever we first tell people about our living situation. Usually whenever we tell people that we've been living in a van for well over a year and a half, they usually think that it is completely awesome. They say that they would absolutely do what we're doing, but there's no way that they could do it with their wife.
Or their husband.
And so usually they follow it up with a question. How the heck have you guys been living for over a year and a half in 63 square feet and still seem to be happy with each other?
So today we're going to discuss our top 5 tips for staying happy in our relationship.
While living in a van. So I gotta say, I feel a little bit silly giving marriage advice, considering that we've only been married for a little over a year and a half, and we're certainly not experts. So, we're not gonna give marriage advice. Instead, all we're gonna do is tell you some of the things that we do in order to keep our relationship happy while living in such a small space. So tip number 1 is all about communication. Right from the very beginning of our relationship, we decided that we would always do our best to be completely open and honest with each other about basically everything. But whenever you live in such a small space, sometimes you can get pretty wrapped up in the day-to-day just living. So we decided to actually start scheduling a check-in time once a week where we sit down, we pour a glass of wine, and the only thing we do during that period is just talk about how we're feeling and how we're doing.
And it's worked really well for us because we found that things that we normally wouldn't talk about actually come out. And then when they come out, it just disappears. It doesn't build.
So we have an alarm set in our phones, and every Monday night it goes off and we sit down and we chat. And it's great because nothing ever gets bottled up for more than 1 week. And then we have to talk about it. And by the end of that evening, everything that's been bugging us potentially for that week is over. And then we can move on to new things.
So we found that this has been something that we are going to continue, this check-in, when we transition out of the van, because it's been super helpful for our relationship. And we've also determined that when we do the check-in, there's no judging initially, or there's nothing taken personally. We're just allowed to talk.
Yeah, have to leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
And just honestly connect with one another.
Yeah. So our tip number 2 is
having a common goal. Whenever we first moved into our camper van, our goal was literally just to travel across the country for our honeymoon. But then after we got back, we realized that, man, there's so much about this lifestyle that we really love. And it's a great way to pay down some of our debt, save up a little bit of money, and progress ourselves financially much faster than we ever did before while living in our apartment.
we had a lot of aha moments while we were on our honeymoon, to the point where we realized that we were really living outside of our means. And so when we came home, we thought, let's really explore this a little bit more and figure out what it means to live within what we can afford.
So now we're actually at the point where we've been able to pay down our debt enough and save up enough money that we've actually been looking at houses so that eventually we won't be living in a van anymore. We'll be living in a home with a foundation instead of wheels.
No wheels. I mean, the wheels have been awesome, but no wheels.
And so one of the ways that we have been keeping track of this common goal is by making what we call a goal board. And we've literally just created it out of Bristol board with markers on the inside of our washroom door because we don't have a lot of wall space in here. And on it, we can just write things down and draw little pictures just to remind us about why we're doing this now. And it evolves, right? Because it started out just as an adventure, and then eventually it became, an aha, learning about ourselves and our lifestyle. And then now it's actually about, being able to move our life forward. And so being able to keep track of this on our goal board gives us a reminder every time we go to the washroom of exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it, and making sure that we're both still on the same page. Which brings us to tip number 3.
Which is appreciating where you're at.
So tip number 2 was all about the future, but tip number 3 is all about the present and making sure that you still live in the moment and appreciate all of the wonderful things that we have now.
As frustrating as it can get from time to time living in a small space, there are many awesome things. And so it's easy to lose sight of what those are.
And so, below our goal board, we've created an appreciation board where we can write down all of the things that we really love about our current lifestyle, about our current life, and the things that we're just really happy to have right now. Obviously, we can be appreciative of the fact that even on the coldest nights, we have a shelter that keeps us warm and dry. We've got each other, we've got family and friends, we've got our health, we've got so many wonderful things. Plus, we've got a lot of the small things, like we have a lot of fun from day to day.
And tip number 4
is maintaining a daily routine. Because whenever you live in such a small space, it's pretty easy to start tripping over each other really quickly. And that gets very frustrating very fast. And so we've created a number of routines that allow us to always make sure that we know what our job is or what our role is in that moment, so that we're not stepping on each other's toes. So for instance, in the morning...
So the alarm goes off. And we hit snooze quite a number of times. But nonetheless, at some point, I actually flick the heat on. Once it gets warm enough, then I get up. And once I get up, I start getting ready for the day. When I'm ready for the day, I move to the front of the van.
And then I get out of bed and I get ready for the day, which mostly just means getting dressed. While I'm getting dressed in the back, Paul is able to be in the front, and so we're not stepping on each other. If we both tried to get ready at the very same time, we don't have a lot of space back there. We would be all over each other, and it would be pretty darn irritating.
Absolutely. And so while he's getting ready, I'm in the front of the van, actually getting our gym bags ready for our shower and getting our lunches ready.
And then we're off to the gym where we have a shower before we head to work. And when we get home from work, we have similar routines, just, I guess, in reverse.
I guess so, yeah.
But all of them are based on us never having to be in the exact same space at the exact same time. Always there's a bit of a shift back and forth so that we're never stepping on each other and we're always working in sync. Mm-hmm. And now tip number 5.
That's our favorite tip of all.
Because as important as it is to make sure that you always have a daily routine so that you know exactly where you're supposed to be at exactly the right time, it's also really important to remember that, like life in general, van life is supposed to be an adventure. And so sometimes it's important to just be spontaneous and fun and just live in the moment.
So come with us.
How is it that we seem to still be in love after living in a camper van together for well over a year and a half? And
We're not.